Hello everybody, welcome back to a new video. This will be a game of War of the Ring with Kings and Lords of Middle-earth, the expansions, played on Tabletop Simulator. It took me a little while to figure out how I wanted to do this. I tried a couple things, I had a couple technical issues, and this is what we're going to do. So there's going to be a game playback. I can mess with it as we go, and we're going to see how that compares to the normal Java thing. So as you can see, it's on TTS. It's a slightly different interface, much prettier map than in Java, so I do enjoy that. This was a recorded game I have versus Lego Quill. I am playing as the Free People, and they're playing as the Shadow. Now, to start off, you can see my starting hands. I got Horn of Gondor and the Red Arrow. So I'm considering whether to separate Boromir. There's a few obvious choices for separation as Free People when you have Council of Rivendell. Boromir's a great one, Gimli's a great one, the Hobbits, and recently there's even been talk about Legolas being used to separate, so really the whole gamut. In this case, I believe I just had alternate Boromir, so the question is, am I going to separate him, or am I going to separate nobody at all? With Red Arrow, I think I'd rather get Gondor active, which means I am going to separate Boromir. So I get Boromir, and the intention with separating Boromir is I got him, he's going to go and get Gondor ready to go. Shadow is considering what to do, and they are doing the 4-eye strategy. This is a classic strategy for Shadow in Kings and Lords. The idea behind it is you corrupt all the sovereigns, you take the non-revealing tiles out of the hunt pool, and then you get your reveals, and you just corrupt the hell out of the Fellowship. What you're really hoping for when you do something like this is to roll at least one muster. You can see this roll was 5 eyes and 2 Palantirs. The Palantirs in particular are really not what Shadow wants. The eyes aren't that bad. So this is a pretty crazy roll. But as you'll see this game, this doesn't necessarily mean Shadow can't continue with this strategy, even despite not getting musters the first 2 turns. So I have way more dice. I have a ton of musters. I don't really want to use the card draw, so I immediately just advance Gondor, and they have a choice, right? They could choose to go for Boromir, for Denethor, and before I'm able to awaken him, but there's not that high a chance they're going to get it. So I think, let's see, what they end up doing is I'm taunting them to go for Denethor, but they end up going for Theoden, and they end up, you can see they're redrawing all the eyes. They end up getting a 3 and corrupting him. So that is a very fortunate draw for them. It does remove a 3 from the hunt pool, but it's a 3 non-reveal that I'd really like to hit with Gandalf anyway. So now I am going to get the chance to get Denethor. I like Denethor a lot. He's a very strong sovereign. He's able to get card cycling going for Free People, which is really valuable. And they're continuing to do corruption. I'm waiting to move because I want them to remove eyes from the pool. There is that kind of tension between eyes rolled and being able to corrupt sovereigns. In this case, they're going for Dine. You can't corrupt Dine in one move, so who knows what they just put on him. Probably a non-revealing tile that's now out of the pool. I'm currently thinking about what to do. I want to play Red Arrow at some point, especially with Theoden corrupted, actually. It's even more important. But I think I'm going to rush the Elves. I'm going to want the Elves to war to defend myself anyway, and they're probably not going to go for Black Captain. You can see they're getting Brand, so they've had a lot of success. Now, they have removed 2 3s from the hunt pool, but that's not necessarily bad for corruption. I'm getting the elves further to war, so I'm just rushing the elves to war, and they're drawing a card, and I'm going to move the Fellowship. Right now, it's only 2 eyes. I do get hit, which isn't ideal, and I hit Smeagol, which is really interesting. I'm glad it's not a reveal. I don't want to give them the chief this early, but Smeagol is actually kind of annoying. So he's getting in the way of my Narya die, so it's not very good for me either. They get more cards. I get Ever at Your Service, which is an excellent card. Remember, this lets you remove corruption from a non-corrupted sovereign, and it lets you muster. And then Axe and Bow might be nice if the hunt gets bad. They're doing 2 eyes this time, not quite as many, but they don't have as many corruption targets. And they get another crazy roll. So they have been very high in Palantirs, very bad for Shadow early on like this. I didn't get Narya. I'm thinking about what to get rid of. Um, there might be a genuine case to get rid of the character die. I mean, they're so slow, I might not want to move twice. But I decided to get rid of the muster because I already have two others. I get the elves directly to war. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because if they want to get the black captain, fine. That gives me all of my sovereigns and it activates everybody, which is pretty nice. Um, and I'm really thinking about this because they don't have many attacks. I'm thinking of just getting Thranduil because if I can get Thranduil, then I can use that character die to get Thranduil's ability. So I get Thranduil. I have no mustering, but I do have two sovereigns and the elves at war, which is pretty nice. I'm thinking about it and I end up moving. And it's kind of an interesting decision because I could have moved with the Thranduil die, but I chose to move with the non-Thranduil die first, and then on my second move, they'll only have one die. I'm not actually sure what the math on that says. It might be better to move. I'm always debating whether it's better to get the easier move first or second. In this instance, um, if I move, they'll only have one die, but I decide to pass, and this is a mistake because it allows them to make another corruption attempt. Had I moved, then they would have only rolled with one eye anyway. So that is just a funny little thing. They get a sovereign tile, so it doesn't matter that much, although it is another non-reveal tile out of the Fellowship. And now I just pass because there's no point, but we both kind of know I'm going to move anyway, so there's no real point waiting on that. One die going into Moria, and I am hit, unfortunately. Fortunately, it is a 2, so this is kind of good for me. I can now kill Smeagol and put Gandalf back in charge as the guide, so I get Narya. There are very few non-revealing tiles left. I'm not allowed to look at it, but I know that that's the case. And they just play Hill Trolls, so they are buffing up their army, taking advantage of those Palantirs as best they can. It was a very rough start to the game for Shadow. But I haven't really made that much progress. Swords and Eriador and Gwahir. I'm thinking about Gwahiring. You know, you could get a Hobbit or maybe Gimli over to Erebor to activate people. Let's see. Pretty decent roll for me. I get rid of a Palantir. That makes sense. I'm not going to play any character cards, so I can always use the muster dice to play my muster cards. And yeah, now I have a good long think because there's a lot of tension at the moment. I really want to move and maybe kill Gandalf. But I also am worried because they have a lot of attacks showing, and I don't want them to just rush down Thranduil without me being able to muster. So I'm thinking about what to do. I'm thinking for a good long while. I think it's probably best here to just muster an elite. But I decide, okay, I'm going to use the Thranduil die now. And my thinking is I really just don't want to deal with a really nasty tile right past Moria. I'd like to get at least one safe move out of the way. I don't know. I don't know whether it's better with two eyes to move with the Thranduil die first or second. It's an interesting question. I'm thinking about what to do, and now I'm looking at the Elven Elites. There's another aspect to this. What I really don't want is to them to continue to corrupt Dine, because they already have one tile on him. Who knows what it is? And I really want to play Ever at Your Service to remove that tile, but I don't really want to give away that I have that card, and I don't want to use up all my musters when they could potentially rush Woodland Realm. So I feel a little stuck at the moment. And I want to save this in case they give me Gandalf, which they probably won't. So I'm debating what to do. I think ultimately mustering in Woodland Realm would be correct here. But after a good long think, I could also get Galadriel, especially if Gandalf dies. Galadriel would make a ton of sense. And Ever at Your Service, I could remove a tile from Dine. So yeah, there's a ton of options, and this is what I love about Kings. There's so many options right off the get-go that are very interesting. In the end, I decide to just move the Fellowship after much thinking, and I get revealed. So that is unfortunate. I reveal through Moria. At least there's no Balrog. So I'm not going to take any extra tiles from that. I'm thinking about killing Gandalf, and I briefly do. I want to skip ahead just a bit, because then I realize that they do not have Saruman, so I bring him back. And I end up not killing Gandalf and just taking the one corruption. Um, and I think this is right. I mean, I'm not going to be able to get Gandalf right away anyway, so better to just see what I get. And as it happens, they draw 2, so I'll kill Gandalf to that very happily. So that saved me 1 corruption in the bargain, which is pretty nice. And now they are encouraged to not get Gandalf, and they actually get Ugluk, which I think is interesting. I would probably get the Chief here. I guess they probably figure there's not that much of a hurry, and they want to get their rerolls on me now, and this gives them the best rerolls. This is, if you just prioritize getting rerolls on the Fellowship with the best chance possible, this is exactly what you should do. So they are getting a ton of rerolls. Those rerolls are going to get +1 to hit on the reroll. And life is going to be pretty good. Now, once again, I am torn on what to do. Obviously, I'm not getting Gandalf this turn. I think I'm also worried about overdrawing. I have a lot of cards in my hand. And I end up playing Ever at Your Service. So I want to get this tile off of Dine. I don't want Dine to be corrupted. It's pretty important. And I get a Muster and Minas Tirith, which is nice. And now there's a big question about whether okay, so the card says randomly remove a tile from a sovereign, a non-corrupted sovereign. But it says it's a hidden corruption tile. So my interpretation of that, and I ended up following up and getting confirmation that you do not remove the king's sovereign tile. Instead, you remove from the face down hidden tiles. So we end up talking about this for a bit. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit. We end up going with that interpretation. In the meantime, you can see they've moved their armies. They moved out into Daggerlad and towards Woodland Realm. So there was a bit of a debate about that, and I think that it's reasonable to look into that. But it did take a little bit of time, so I'm just skipping past that. I'm thinking about what to do, and ultimately I decide to muster an elite in Woodland Realm instead of getting Galadriel. I want to make sure Woodland Realm is well protected, so I'm a little down on dice now. I lost my keeper die thanks to Gandalf, but I think that's the right decision. You want to get elites to protect your strongholds. I'm thinking about what to do, and I just stay where I am. Strider's Guide. We're about halfway to Mordor. Hasn't been too bad in terms of corruption yet, but they have been removing a lot of tiles, so we're going to see how this goes. They do 2 eyes, probably mostly to hunt the Fellowship more than anything. And I get a ton of character dice, and I remove 1 because I don't need that many character dice. Now, I'm in a bit of a pickle. I'm thinking about what to do, and I ultimately get another elite in Woodland Realm. So now I have 3 elites in Woodland Realm versus their army, which has 2 elites and 4 regulars. Not anything special. That should be able to hold for a while. Now, I probably want to get Galadriel this turn. I play Axe and Bow. That makes sense. Corruption is clearly going to be a problem in this game, and they're cycling on me with the Chief. Very nasty. I want to move, but I want to do it my last action so they can't do Sovereign Corruption. And I end up doing Red Arrow, and I think this is a mistake. I think it's better to get Galadriel, get my dice going. As much as I don't want to overdraw, I think I could wait till next turn to play this card. But they besiege Woodland Realm. You can see in this King's game, the game is progressing a lot slower than it would in base, but corruption is much more of a focal point. And they miss. They did not use Phlox, and and Ugluk only provides the +1 to the reroll. So that move was pretty big. I managed to avoid getting hit, which was pretty nice. I get Aid in Time of Need. Great card. Lets me, if Thranduil were not currently covered up, he could go to Erebor and Awaken Dine. Unfortunately, he is covered up. But the King's Banner is still a good combat card for Thranduil to cancel their leadership. I'm debating whether to reveal. There's not really any reason to reveal. It might make their lives easier, actually, to reveal. So I decide not to do it. They allocate 2 eyes. Again, I think they're just hunting. And again, I didn't roll a will. So that's the second turn that I didn't get a will. That's definitely pretty sad. I'm looking at my cards right now. I don't think there's that much I want to play. I think I'm going to move twice, so I get rid of the muster. And hopefully this turn, I finally get Galadriel, because we've been waiting on her for a while. There's... I have a lot of good combat cards, so if they decide to start attacking Woodland Realm, I feel pretty confident about my ability to hold it. I also have Dine, which is really nice. It's another reason I don't want Corrupted Dine, right? Because if they manage to corrupt Dine Ironfoot's Guard, the card, would only remove Corrupted Dine. It wouldn't give me reinforcements. And Erebor is probably going to be important in this game, so I don't want to do that. You can see they have 4 attacks, and I just decided to move right away. I'm going to use Thranduil's die to reduce the chances that they hit me, and it works, right? They only roll on 1 die, and they only have 1 reroll. And they Nazgul search me. So I've been pretty careful so far with the Fellowship, and they are continuing to cycle on me with the Chief. Given how they just moved their Nazgul, there's a few options for me to go. I end up moving this way because I do not want to be in range of Ugluk. I'm going to make them move with Ugluk if they want to get their +1 to rerolls. I also want to be away from them. So I hide with Strider. Very good Strider. Ugluk does move, so they are prioritizing getting these rerolls, getting a big... making the Fellowship sad, basically. And I think that's correct. I mean, that's clearly their win con. They're going a bit slow, so they want to move quickly. They want to corrupt the Fellowship, so I can't just sprint to the win. And they play Palantir Vorthink, and I think for a bit, and this is a really interesting decision. Here, I have a muster, I have a character die. Do you get rid of Palantir Vorthink? They have a single Palantir. Obviously, they're going to roll more. If you don't get rid of it now, it kind of feels like you're signing up to keep it around forever. That's not quite true, but it kind of feels that way. Is it worth getting rid of? That's going to be up to you. Ultimately, I decide it is not. I decide, look, because of the Chief, they're going to be able to cycle on me anyway, and I don't want to give them a ring. A ring could be really devastating. I want to save all of my rings for as long as I can. So, I just accept dealing with Palantir Vorthink, and they're going to get all of their cards out. I end up passing. They play Candles of Corpses, which is obviously bad. I don't want to deal with this. They get 2 hits, pretty nasty. But they would get to cycle with that anyway, because of the Chief. So I'm passing. They get Saruman. Good job, Saruman. And now I bring out Galadriel. Better late than never, right? I finally got Galadriel out. She can do her business. And they get Palantir of Barad-dûr. So Palantir of Barad-dûr, if you don't remember, lets you spend a muster die as a Palantir. So once per turn. So Shadow is making their ability to cycle with Palantir even better. And it is really nasty, those 2 cards in combination. There's a special effect you can get if you take out Minas Tirith, so I have to be mindful of that. Shadow is really all in on the corruption. I move the Fellowship. They have 2 dice now, +1 to hit on reroll, and they miss, so that is quite lucky for me. The first move, I used Thranduil's ability. It wasn't that likely. This one, they hit on 5, 5, and 4. So they are continuing to cycle, thanks to Palantir of Barad-dûr. The good news is I still have a very healthy and full fellowship, so I'm okay here. I get Celeborns and Wizard Staff. Wizard Staff is the most easy discard in the world here. And then Swords and Ariador is my other one. I have other good cards. It's a little tricky. Maybe I could get rid of Gua here, but I decided to do that. And I finally got my will, so I'm very happy to see that. I got a pretty balanced roll. I'm not ecstatic about the card draw, but it's fine. I'm debating what to do. There's no hurry for me to get Gandalf because the Southrons are not at war. I want them to do corruption attempts, so I don't want to move the Fellowship quite yet. I could, I suppose, get rid of Palantir of Orthanc or Barad-dûr, but I don't think it's worth doing. I think it's much better to get Gandalf. So I just pass. So I've signed up for them being able to use those cards as long as they want. It's sad, but what you gonna do? They're now moving the Southrons to war to try and put pressure on my dice. Makes sense. The Southrons are now fully at war, so I'm forced to get Gandalf. I don't really see any reason to get him anywhere but Lorien, but Fangorn. Interesting thing about Kings, in base game right now, I might consider putting him in Woodland Realm. I mean, it's a 1/3/1, or it's actually a 1/3/2. But they can get Shadow of Mirkwood. They can probably get the Black Serpent up there. At some point, they're going to get the Mouth. So Gandalf, in a vacuum like that, isn't quite as strong. They now use a muster to play Paladin from the Deep, and I take a random. And there is a mistake here, right? I forgot that I had Axe and Bow on the board. So Axe and Bow would have been able to take that one from Falthing, but I forgot it. And that is a shame. I mean, I would probably notice it on Java. It's just kind of blended in with all the other cards over there. I try and take it back, and my opponent says no. I mean, I drew the random, right? So that's on me. That's a mistake on me. But it is very sad that I had Falthing, the perfect counter to Falthing in Axe and Bow, and I just forgot that I had it on the table. So that is a real shame, and I breezed over it because of I was talking about this. But they got Strider to a 1, so that was the best Falthing you'll ever see in your life. And we talk about it a little bit, and they're just like, no, you drew the random. And life goes on. So, Strider's dead. Fellowship is not looking so good anymore. They're looking a lot worse now, I would say. I decide to move the Fellowship. So now I'm at 2 movement. I'm getting close to Mordor. It's still okay. Fellowship is still okay. I obviously would rather have Strider right now. I'm kind of sad because I've literally never gotten to do that with Falthing. I know that it is theoretically possible to use Axe and Bow or Horn of Gondor to cancel Falthing, but I just forgot I could. And sometimes that's how it is. We're moving on though. I've moved the Fellowship, and hopefully, oh, look at that! You see that? Ugluk got a hit for Shadow, and it's a 1 reveal. So that is really devastating. I do not want to get revealed here. I do get to use Axe and Bow, which is pretty nice. And if I had Strider right now, I could hide with my draw token. But because I don't have Strider, I can't. So that is really significant. It means I'm going to have to spend a ring to get into Mordor, which of course I still will do. It's worth spending a ring here. But yeah. Let's see what I do here. I'm thinking about what to do. My hand is so full. I have all these great combat cards, but I haven't had the chance to spend them. So I just draw a character card. I'm just trying to get through my character deck because I know that corruption is going to be critical. I end up drawing I Will Go Alone. That's a pretty easy discard. So I'm at least getting through my character deck all right. They are thinking about what to do, and they play Black Captain Commands, and they move their Nazgul around, so they're giving up on hunting the Fellowship, which makes sense. I'm about to get into Mordor, and they attack Osgiliath. And you look at my card, right? My hand, right? I have two daylights. The King's Banner, which is almost as good of a day as a daylight. I have Dine, I have Wind from the West, and I have Gwahir. And in the battle in Osgiliath, I decide to play daylight because I'm gonna have to discard, and I have so many good cards in my hand. I'd rather just try and save some HP now. As it happens, they end up not getting any hits. I don't really know if this is due to daylight or not, but I'm happy to get some value out of my cards. And is it better to maybe save the daylight? I don't know. I don't know if there's I might have just had to discard something equally as good as daylight anyway later. So they leave the chief with the fellowship, which makes sense. Gondor's at war, but I'm in no hurry because I already mustered in Minas Tirith. So instead, I'm going to give them a ring and I'm going to get into Mordor. So, um, speed wise, I'm doing great. I'm going to get into Mordor. I do get revealed, which really sucks. The health of the Fellowship, though, they just got two good tiles, right? They got two twos. They got a 0 reveal and a 2. So the Fellowship's at 3, and then they play Morgul Ruin. So the Fellowship is at 5 with 4 corruption worth of companions in the Fellowship. Really nasty. I draw into some pretty good cards. Gwahir is still useful to me. Fearfire Foes is really nice. I really like having a shield wall. I end up getting rid of Gwahir because I might put Gandalf under, but other than that, I don't really have a good use for it. And all these other ones are just such good combat cards or useful in general. And they are putting in 2 eyes. They don't want me to have an easy time with eyes, and they ended up rolling a ton of them too. So yeah, corruption is a real thing. I can go slow. I've bought myself a lot of time. But Mordor is not going to be trivial. So I had the Fellowship, and they put another red tile in. And at this point, I attempt to move with Thranduil's token, the ruler token, but you cannot do that. Because Thranduil's ruler token ability, which lets you turn a die into a character die most of the time, does not work in Mordor. So, yeah, this is my mistake here. So we fix that. And then what do I end up deciding to do instead? I don't do that. And I think now is the time to play Knowledge of the Seeing Stones. You might be unfamiliar with that card. It lets you manipulate Shadow's deck, which is really valuable here. I really want to take away red tiles from them, or maybe a card that lets them damage me, and I get Shelob. Shelob is such a lucky draw here. So I get to discard a card completely. That's obviously going to be Shelob. I'm going to take it out of the deck. Shadow is never going to get to use it. And then Breaking is +1 corruption. That's going to get shuffled back into the deck, and then we won't go back, which doesn't hurt the Fellowship, just goes right on top. And then in addition, I also get to draw a card. So that's very nice, and I get There's Another Way. So I didn't fully appreciate that card at first, but the more I play, the more I appreciate it. And here's where I've made a mistake, because they start going for Umbar, and I am a turn too late, right? If I had been thinking about what Shadow might have, I could have mustered an elite into Lamroth in advance. I'm not sure exactly the best time to do that, probably when I played Knowledge of the Seeing Stones. But unfortunately, they get Dolamroth Under Siege relatively weak. So Dolamroth isn't guaranteed to fall, especially if I draw Imrahil, but it's not looking great. Now I get a bunch of musters. This is a tricky one. I think what I end up doing, yeah, I want to get Helm's Deep ready because they have corrupted Theoden, but that doesn't actually help them take Helm's Deep. So because of Red Arrow, I can put up a strong defense of Helm's Deep. They get the mouth, as they should. And with 2 extra musters, it's a bit tricky. Obviously, I want to do whatever I can to protect the Fellowship, but probably the best way I can do that is to buy myself more time. So I get another leader in Minas Tirith. They attack Minas Tirith. I go under siege. They have a nice big army there, but I have Denethor and Boromir, who will do a really good job protecting it. And I decide to upgrade one of my regulars into an elite. So now Minas Tirith is, what is that? A 2-3-4 with 2 companions. So Minas Tirith is feeling pretty strong. I can always get more guys there. So I'm hopeful that Minas Tirith will take a long time. I get even more cards. Card deck management has been really tough this game. I'm obviously going to get rid of scouts, but I have so many other good combat cards. I need Win from the West. Heroic Death is really great for my companions. It could be in Woodland or with Boromir. I think, yeah, I get rid of the King's Banner. And it's really sad because that's a great combat card, but they have been focused on getting me under siege, and I haven't been able to play my combat cards. And now they have a lot of dice. So Shadow's military is now coming together at a time when I'm really trying to slow the game down because the Fellowship's doing a little rough. It's not terrible. So I move and I hit the red eye. So now it's terrible. Before this, the Fellowship was doing okay. But this and the Foul Thing maneuver have made suddenly corruption incredibly scary. So now Pippin's the guide. He's the only one of the Fellowship left. I'm revealed, and I didn't even get to move. And by the way, you cannot use Galadriel's ability to get rid of the red eye, only the standard eye. So I have to keep that in mind. I do if there is another way. Hopefully I'll be able to cycle some more. I'll be able to do what I can to drag out the game so I can use Gollum's ability as much as possible. And they're now getting ready. Shadow is still at 0 victory points, by the way. We are well into the game, and that's true. So I have time. I'm now looking at their cards, and I make a really interesting decision here. Maybe it's here, maybe it's not. But they have Palantir of Orthanc and Palantir of Minas Tirith, and Palantir of Barad-dûr. I had the Fellowship, so not quite yet. They have those 2 cards. Of those 2 cards, you could spend a will to get rid of either of them. I end up deciding, after refusing to do it for Palantir of Orthanc for the longest time, I'm going to end up using a will to get rid of Palantir, not of Orthanc. Okay, I'm still waiting. But I'm going to get rid of Palantir of Barad-dûr. And the reason I do that is because there is a card that Shadow can play once they control Minas Tirith that lets them discard cards from your hand and see your hand if they have Barad-dûr on the table. If they don't have Barad-dûr on the table, they can't do that anymore. Additionally, the timing, and the Siege of Woodland Realm is happening while I'm talking all of this. There's so much going on in the game. It's great. That's what I love about Kings. The timing of this is really important, though, because if they have a card that gives +1 corruption, then they're going to be able to play it with Palantir of Barad-dûr. And without Palantir of Barad-dûr, I'm kind of taking away their ability to do that. So for all those reasons, I'd rather get rid of Palantir of Barad-dûr. They're going to get through their whole deck regardless of what I do. They're going to start cycling. There's not much I can do about that. Now, as for the Siege of Woodland Realm, right? Woodland Realm is a 1-3-2. It's pretty well defended. They have a big army up there. They're going to have to bring in reinforcements, probably. I play a Shield Wall. Finally, I'm able to get rid of some of these cards. They play Black Breath, which is a really fun card in this expansion. It gives them the opportunity to take out my Sovereigns sometimes. But in this case, we're going to see what happens. They end up getting 2 hits, and I get 2 hits. So Shield Wall doing its work. They do kill a leader because of Black Breath, so that is pretty annoying. So I have to downgrade, and I do downgrade. I'll downgrade once. I already mustered the other elite. And they are just taking their time cycling with the Witch King. So they're going to get more character cards. It's pretty nasty up here. I want this to take time, but I also don't want to give them stuff. And I end up drawing into Smeagol Help's Nice Master. So we are both digging through our decks. The decks are massive with kings and lords. There's almost 30 cards in the character deck for each of us, so it takes a lot of work to get through all of these. They are thinking about what to do, and they end up attacking Woodland Realm again. And I think with the strategy card, now I play Daylight, which is really good card play on their part because they managed to cancel my Daylight. And then they get 3 hits, so that is really unfortunate. 3 hits is really not what I wanted to see for them when they get no bonuses to hit. But, sometimes that's how it goes. But they're not pressing, so they are just continuing to take it relatively slow. And that does give me time now. I put in Spiegelhaus Ice Master, so finally I got a blue tile in there. Life's not so bad. And they're now attacking Woodland again, so they're just continuing to cycle. I do no card, which is interesting. I feel like a Heroic Death might have been better in this instance, but I guess I'm figuring against a character card, I'm going to save it for a strategy card. As it happens, it's Fear of Their Master, so it could have gone really poorly, but they miss. So that was lucky for me. The Swarm of Bats went really well for them. Fear of Their Masters went really poorly. It evens out in the end. I'm thinking about what to do. They have 5 regulars left. It's doubtful that it'll be enough. And I end up moving. I get the 2 Sovereign tile. Pretty good tile to draw. That lets me kill Pippin and then reveal. So I am avoiding by whatever means possible any corruption I can. So I'm going to reveal to everything because I have the time and I need to. What are they up to now? They're attacking Woodland again. And because they played a strategy card, now I play Heroic Death. And indeed, it is Deadly Strife. So Thranduil can Heroic Death for 2, so they would actually need 5 to take out Woodland Realm here. In this case, they only get 3, so there goes Thranduil, and there goes... and then I downgrade as well. So Woodland Realm is holding out pretty nicely. It would have been nice to get 2 hits with that Deadly Strife. They're now down to 3 regulars, so 1 more would have been really significant. And I do something interesting. I Awaken Dine here. They have the Black Captains, so the rows are active. And by Awakening Dine, I put a 1 non-reveal in the pool. So it's almost like I put in another blue tile. A shitty blue tile, but still a blue tile. And I draw into Thranduil's Archers, which is really interesting. They have 4 regulars left. Again, it would have been nice to get them down to 3. And I have to decide, do I want the siege to last longer? And I think I end up deciding no, because they're just using me to cycle. I want to save my elves for Lorien and Rivendell to protect my keepers, who are going to be really useful to me. So, yeah, I know they're not going to be able to take Erebor anyway. So I just let Woodland Realm fall, and I put in another blue tile. And now that there's no hidden tiles, we can see the pool. It's pretty big. The eyes are obviously very nasty. They play Lure of the Ring. I probably should have hid. That's my mistake. So now I do hide. But they were probably going to be able to play that on me at some point anyway, so I'm not that torn up about it. They attack Woodland Realm now, and I had plenty of chances to play Thranduil's Archers, and I chose not to. So instead, I play no card. They play another Deadly Strife, and they get it done. So good on them. Woodland Realm falls. I was really hoping it would require more reinforcements, but at least it took a lot of dice. I'm continuing to draw cards. I need as many character cards as I can get, and I'm not eager to move against 4 eyes. I'd rather wait and hope that they roll less eyes. And now I think is the time that I get rid of Palantir of Barad-dûr. Yep. So this is really important to do before they take Minas Tirith. And they're obviously going to start turning their eyes on Minas Tirith now that Woodland Realm has fallen. It's the other stronghold that they have under siege. So yeah, Denethor and Boromir now get the chance to prove their quality once this starts going. But in the meantime, I got to make sure all of my VPs are covered. So I am continuing to prepare. I'm preparing in Rohan. Rohan isn't going to get any help. I literally cannot muster elites or leaders in Rohan because of Theoden. So I need that 3/2/2 to hold really well in Helm's Deep, and it very well might. They play Orcs Multiplying again, so they're preparing for the long haul. I imagine they don't feel the need to rush military. Corruption is still their primary way of winning this, but they want to threaten military eventually. It's very important in these corruption games for Shadow to keep progressing your military, or free people like can just sit around until they get all the cards they need. So I play Dine just for hand management at this point. I know that Erebor is a very strong potential target, and I'd like to get it nice and prepared. And now they attack Minas Tirith. I think I'm going to play a Valor. I'd like to damage them. Yeah, they got Onslaught. Makes sense. They got, what, 4 elites and 4 regulars? That's, how much HP is that? That's 12 HP. That's a lot. So I get 3 hits, so good job, Valor. And they are gonna Onslaught. I got Book of Mizarble, which is pretty nice. Book of Mizarble was from Frandel's, from Dine, because Dine gives you a redraw, which I did not do previously. And then they Onslaught 4, and they get 3 hits, which is a lot. That's definitely above average. So Minas Tirith suddenly isn't looking so hot. And I downgrade twice. It's a little sad to be taking those regulars out of the force pool, but I want Minas Tirith to hold. And yeah, they don't have much left in Minas Tirith. They have 5 HP, 2 elites, and a regular. So here's something interesting. Let's talk about 2 things in this game. First of all, they have this ruler die, and it's really critical here because it is giving them another chance to roll more eyes. And normally that's not something you would say, but in a corruption game like this, they now have 11 dice they're rolling, and they're going to allocate an eye. They are expected to get about 2 more. So they're expected a number of eyes in the pool at any given time is going to be 3, which is pretty high. So me holding out for low eyes isn't necessarily a guarantee. They might keep rolling eyes. So that is what the ruler die can do for them. The second, and look, they just rolled 4. The second thing going on here is I now have the chance to sortie, right? I have Challenge of the King. It's a sudden strike. I have 4 leadership, so I could sortie with 4 leadership, and then I have, what would that be? 13 dice to get 5 5s. It's not particularly likely. It might be worth taking my chances on, though. If I sortied here, I could potentially kill the mouth, which would be really significant and cut down on the amount of damage they can do to me. I think about it, but I end up deciding not to. I'm going to save my dice to play as many cards as I possibly can, cycle for as many cards as I possibly can, and just generally take my time. But it is tempting. It would be really cool to sortie here. Yeah, I think I'm very strongly thinking about it. They don't actually have that many dice. So it's going to take them time to even take out Minas Tirith. The Onslaught went really well for them. So they're probably going to be able to take it. But even so, let's see. I play 3 rings. I want my ring back. I want to manage my hand, and I get nothing. Classic 3 rings. It feels like it misses all the time for me. For them at this point, they're now going to reinforce Minas Tirith. My chance to sortie has been lost. You know, the odds of getting 5 hits were pretty low, all things considered. But it might have been worth doing. I don't know. We'll never know how that would have worked out. I am continuing to muster, so now I have a respectable force of Minas Tirith. A 3-1 with 2 companions. That's not too bad. If I can get some good combat rounds, they might be able to hold out for a little bit. Now I play my Sudden Strike. They play Words of Power, canceling Boromir, which reduces the value of my Sudden Strike. So very nice use of Words of Power. I do get 2 hits on Sudden Strike, so good job, guys. And I do not roll 5 dice. I only roll 4. So that took away 3 dice from me, that one sudden strike, which is pretty significant. And I only roll 1 on the combat roll. So that, like I said, that's pretty significant. I'm continuing to take regulars out of the force pool. It's a little sad. I'm now out of elites. I don't have that many regulars left. Gondor is pretty done. Are they going to press? They do get a free press, so I don't see why they wouldn't press here. I guess they're just taking their time. They don't want to overcommit, which is fair. You can see their army up in Lublin Realm is pretty weak. They do decide to press. Okay. So now I'm going to play Advantageous. I see a strategy card. And they play his Power Waxes, which is essentially just a Desperate Battle in this situation. So Desperate Battle, I hitting on 4s. I at least make it so their combat roll does not hit well, but they just roll 3 6s anyway. So that's pretty nasty. I do get 5 hits back, but them getting hits is the most critical thing here. So they end up taking casualties like this. I probably would have just pressed, but like I said, they're not in a huge hurry. They just have to keep making progress slowly and make me take risks with the Fellowship. So I draw a card. It's Athelas, which is pretty good. I'm pretty happy to have that. If I was able to draw guards, or if I was able to draw House of the Stewards, maybe Minas Tirith could have been far worse for Shadow. But as it is, I haven't been able to do that. So I play Wind from the West. I've been wanting to move. We Shall Get It is incredibly annoying. I really wanted to get Safe Pass, but I didn't draw it. They play a card. It's Great Host, which is very expected. And I get 2 parting hits, but it doesn't really matter. So Minas Tirith is done. They did well. I'm complaining about them. I feel they definitely could have done better. Shadow just was rolling hot, Minas Tirith itself was hitting back pretty well, but I'm moving. This is a risk, right? But I started the turn revealed. I started the turn hidden, so I have to move. I don't want to just take automatic corruption. And in this case, I did not hit an eye. I do know that I have Galadriel to bat away 1 eye, so that is quite good. And I reveal to the 1, and now they play Palantir of Minas Tirith, and this is really critical. This is why I got rid of Palantir of Barad-dûr. If Palantir of Barad-dûr was in hand, they could now get rid of permanently There Is Another Way. Instead, they just have to throw it back into the deck, which is still quite good for them. Yeah, so that's really sad. I now lose Palantir of Barad-dûr. I now lose There Is Another Way. I'm sad about Denethor, but the game keeps going on, right? I want to muster in Erebor, but I can't. They're at 4 points. They can pretty easily get to 6 with Dol Amroth, 8 with Dale and Pelargir in the next couple turns, and then they just need 1 more stronghold or 4 cities. 4 cities is going to be really hard for them because the North is at war. Rohan is a pretty big force. There's just a lot of distance involved. I think they're probably going to go for either an Elven Stronghold or Erebor or Helm's Deep. So we're going to see how that goes. I didn't get the chance to muster. They just moved along while I was thinking, because I'm really considering where best to do this. I end up deciding to muster like this because I just want Pelargir to be a pain in the ass, because they're going to need it regardless. I draw into House of the Stewards. Come on, game. It gives it to me the turn after Minas Tirith falls. We click through too quickly, and now we have to manually roll, which is fine. House of the Stewards turn after. That's so classic. Let's see. I get a will. I get a few character dice and some hybrids. I end up getting rid of a hybrid. That makes sense. I want my wills to draw character cards. I want my character dice to play character cards and hide. They only roll 2 eyes, so I'm definitely going to move. 2 eyes is probably less than I'm going to have to face on average. They're thinking about what to do. Yeah, because they still need to take another stronghold. So it is not trivial for Shadow to win here. They still have to take Dol Amroth. They have to basically do their homework, right? Their homework in this case is taking out Dale, taking out Pelargir, taking out Dol Amroth. And that's going to take at least one turn, maybe two. And then they still need to take more points besides that. So I have time. I still have time. But the clock is ticking. My last two steps haven't been too bad after that first step was really bad. So right now I need to move. I wouldn't actually mind hitting an eye because then I take it out of the pool. And yeah, prepare myself. So I move out. I have help on look for. Let's take a shot at Dol Amroth. That's what I'm thinking. I get the dwarves nice and ready. If I can get a nice help on look for here, then I'm looking really good. But they just attack me in Lamedon, which is the correct play. And now that, my plan is over, I just play a no quarter, and I'm going to see if I can get some hits against them. I have 5 dice. I get 1 hit with no quarter, it's 2, but they just wipe me out with Mumakil and 5 hits. So Gondor is done. Gondor has not done particularly well. And, 2 hits is just not that much damage, considering that they significantly outnumber Dol Amroth. If I had Imrahil, maybe it would be different, but I do not have Imrahil. So I move. Ultimately, I hit the 1. That's the one I put back in the pool when I awakened Dane. So, like I said, I wouldn't have minded hitting an eye here, but that's not too bad. That's actually going okay. They put me up on corruption. I decide to hide the fellowship because I don't want them hitting me with more cards, and then they hit me with more cards. There's a Sealdur. It's an eye. Okay, so that's pretty lucky. Managing to avoid getting hit with the eye. I joke that I don't use Galadriel's ability to get rid of that eye. And yeah, I mean, now they play Orc Patrol, so they get the 3. So that's kind of what you'd expect, right? If you play 2 cards like that, one of them hits an eye, one of them hits a damaging tile. That's about what you'd expect. I do get to reveal to that damaging tile, so now I am at higher corruption. You can see there's 3 eyes in there, and everything else is pretty decent. So the hunt pool is a little rough at the moment. I'm definitely not hiding at this point because I want to be able to not move next turn. And they drop Grond, so they're going to try and finish off Dol Amroth. We're going to see how that works out for them. They play Great Host, great card to play in the situation. I only have 4 guys, and they get 2 hits as well, so things are not looking so good for old Dol Amroth. Yeah. So Dol Amroth's basically done. We knew it was going to be done. And they still have a bit of work to do before they can fully finish me off. But they're going to get it done. I get 1 hit. They actually miss, which is pretty nice. So if they get another round of whiffing, maybe Dol Amroth can hold. I'm thinking about if there's anything I can play, but I don't really have anything to play in my hand. But no, they just get 2 hits and finish it. So Dol Amroth's dead. It was going to happen. They're mostly out. They're completely out of character cards, more or less. There's not really anything else they can do to me. So all I need to do is keep cycling and hope for the best here. I'm getting more guys because I don't want them to just walk into Pelargir. I want them to have to make attacks, not half movements. And they're mustering up, so their last target is going to be Erebor. Erebor is going to be tough because I have Dine all squared up there. I have Dine Ironfoots has already come, and eventually I'm going to be able to muster more. So I'm hopeful that Erebor is going to be a tough nut to crack, but we'll see what happens. I still have Othalos, so I really need what I would really like. I wouldn't hate a character die and 5 Palantirs next turn. That really would be the best possible roll I could get. I don't think we're going to get it, but, I get Horn of Gondor, a little late, and Imrahil, also a little late. Oh, it's just trolling me. That's really funny. Oh, boy. And what do I get? a card draw is actually just as good as any. It's honestly better uh, than hybrid. So I get to hide. This is a pretty good roll for me. I'm going to hide. They rolled 4 eyes, so eyes kill me right now. So I am not moving. I have no desire to move at the moment. I'm going to draw more character cards, and hopefully, Bilbo's Song is still out there. Mithril Coat is still out there. There's Another Way, which I once drew, is now still out there again. 2 of my blue tiles are still out there. I have a chance to really improve things, especially Bilbo's Song could really turn this around. They attack me in Carrick, so they're just going to clean up the north. Like I said, it would take them about 2 turns to do their homework, and then they need to take it out. So I figure they're not going to win this turn. It's pretty much impossible with the number of attacks they have. They might win next turn if they get a really lucky roll on Erebor. Probably not, though. So I am certainly not in a hurry to move this turn against 4 eyes. And I'm lucky enough to draw into File of Galadriel. So, yeah, things are coming up. They move into Old Forest Road and Vale of Carnan. There is an interesting question here about Brand, right? So Brand, when he's corrupted, means that it gives Shadow a really nasty combat effect they can use when there's North units in the battle. So the question is, I play File, do North leaders count? Because if they attack Dale, I would retreat in and then put the North regular back in my reinforcements. And I think the answer is no. I ended up looking into this after the game, and I believe the answer is no. But this is something we are just discussing. And yeah, so we might run into that situation. Of course, they still need to attack Dale. And we're going to see how that one plays out. They have a lot of leadership down in Gondor, and are debating what to do. And yeah, really, I mean, this Erebor siege is going to be tough. I'm thinking they might go for somewhere else. An Elven Stronghold would probably be easier than Erebor, which is why I have been diligently saving my elves to reinforce either Lorien or Rivendell. Now, they don't have that many armies near there, but they could probably come up with some armies pretty quickly, especially like Orthanc going for Lorien. That is definitely possible. But as we have known for a long time, this is going to come down to corruption. If they just get a roll where they get like 1 eye, then I'm just going to move twice and probably win the game right then and there. I've just been waiting for that roll this whole time, and it just hasn't happened, unfortunately. I draw another character card, so I'm continuing to try and find what I can. The way there is useless, unfortunately. I don't have any hobbits on the board. They're mustering up an Orthanc. They're probably thinking about a 4 cities approach, which makes sense. One strategy they could do, is to just sit on Erebor and go for 4 cities. I play Athelas. I get 1 healing. That's pretty good. I'm now at 8. Now next turn, even if they roll 3 eyes, I can survive that. Even if they have 3 eyes in the pool. They get shadows, so yeah, they're definitely thinking about something maybe in Rivendell, maybe in Shire. And I think what I end up deciding to do, I'm thinking about it, but I think what I end up deciding to do is moving to Trollshaws and over to North Downs or South Downs. Because now it really gums up Shadow's ability to unite and go for Shire, and they can eventually make it to Rivendell. So they attack Dale now. We're going to see if that whole clarification matters. It doesn't. Dale gets slaughtered, but at least they get a parting hit. So good job, Dale. And Book of Mizarble has come and gone, so I'm never going to be able to retake Dale. So they have a chance here with 4 cities. I am hidden, so this is really relevant. I'm going to have to move this turn. I draw Dead Men, which is pretty useless. And we get this roll where they get 6 eyes. So no amount of Bilbos or whatever will save me from this. And, I think about it for a little bit here. But I end up making the decision. And it's probably better. I know that there are I think it was here. I can go back a little bit. Um, let's check how many tiles there are in the pool. One of them's a Smeagol tile. Um, there's a lot of tiles in the pool. Um, three of them are eyes, right? There's three eyes in the pool. I have Galadriel. So anything other than an eye, there's the red eye in there. There's 11 tiles, so 10 tiles, right? 30% of the tiles are eyes. The red one is annoying, but it's not the end of the world. There's everything else in there is really good for me, right? There's a 2, there's a 1, there's a bunch of blue tiles. So my thinking is, look, I'm gonna move. We can calculate the chances here. If you have 0.3 and then after you remove the eye, it's 2 out of 9 chance. So you multiply that by 0.3. So there's only about a 6.6% chance of hitting an eye twice. So my thinking is, look, I could draw an overdraw and just go for it, or I could just say, I'm going to take that 6.5 chance, and I'm going to bet that they don't hit 2 eyes. And, maybe it would be better. Maybe I could have drawn into Mithril and gotten something else, or a blue tile that adjusts the odds. But, it's getting late. Let's just see. If I hit 2 eyes, it isn't meant to be. That's my perspective. So I hit 1 eye. I, of course, use Galadriel's ring. And we draw into a second eye. So that's the end of the game. It probably would be better if this was a tournament. I would probably diligently draw all the cards, give myself the best possible chance, because there's nothing else they can do with the character deck. But I don't regret. You gotta take your chances, and it just didn't work out for me. It was an interesting game. This really, in my opinion, demonstrates the power that of a shadow hard corruption strategy can do, right? Because they were able to pull out all of these tiles in the fellowship, so the pool is really tiny, and then they just got the tiles and mortar they needed. And my military, it took them forever to take me out, but because they had so many kings corrupted, we can see it here. Look at that. This is after removing 2 eyes from the pool, keep in mind. So yeah, the 3 would be fine, the 0, the 1 would be fine, any of my blue tiles would be fine, these 6 tiles would all be really great. Even the red 1 would not be bad, because with their roll, they're not winning this turn. So I would just reveal and then continue drawing, and it wouldn't be too bad. But yeah, the 2 eyes were certainly not what I needed. And we're talking about Strider. They had every right to say I can't go back, because I drew the random, right? And I wish I'd noticed. It would have been nice to notice that, because it's such a cool situation, and it might have made the difference in the end. Who knows? But in the end, Galadriel was not enough, and the poor Fellowship is corrupted on the second to last step. So I hope you enjoyed this game. Definitely a different game than base. You got to see action all around the table, and a heavy corruption focus, that there's so many cards that facilitate Shadow's ability to do that. And there's some counterplay, right? I was able to get rid of Palantir of Barad-dûr, so they weren't able to permanently get rid of There Is Another Way. I was able to get rid of Shelob. I ditched it from the pool. And I don't know, they must have realized that when I got rid of the last card, that Shelob was gone, which is kind of fun. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Fun game. A lot of crazy stuff in Kings, a lot to keep track of. I've had people tell me that it gets a little too much at times with Kings and Lords, which I completely understand, but I love the decision points. It's so difficult to say this is objectively the right decision, because there's so many things that go into every decision you make. And that's what makes it beautiful. There's so much replayability. I hope you enjoy. Maybe try out Kings for yourself. This is Kings and Lords, so you could just do Kings by itself. I don't know if I'd recommend the 4-eye strategy with just Kings. I think it only really works when you got the Chief to complement it. But until next time, I hope you have a great day, and good luck in your games.